You've tuned your .NET MAUI app and now it's time to release it to the Microsoft Store, but you're wondering how to do that? Well, you've come to the right place, my friend. I'm going to show you exactly that in this video. So before we dive straight in, let's first talk a little bit about what we're about to do here. So we want to distribute a Windows app, a Windows.NET MAUI app, and there is a couple of ways to do that. Basically, you have a way of sideloading, which is the way that you have this MSIX file, which is an installer that you can distribute, but you have to sign it with a certificate, and each person has to kind of like import that certificate onto their machine, and they have to trust it and whatever. I'm going to show you that in this video, but it's kind of a hassle. It works better if you already have a certificate bought from like one of the authorities, like I think Komodo is one of them, or Semantic, or one of those, Nosepon. But you can buy certificates and you can sign your application with that. That will make it much easier because those certificates are already trusted within Windows. But you can also do it with a self-signed certificate. Maybe you're working in an enterprise and you want to do it that way. We have to provide that certificate with our application, and people who want to install the application need to trust that certificate, import it in their Windows system, and then they can use your application without any problem. Of course, the other obvious way is if you're going to distribute it through the Microsoft Store, so it will be in the Microsoft App Store. You don't need to sign it that way because that is something that the Microsoft App Store will do. So we can skip that part for there, but there is some other stuff that you need to take into account for that. So basically, let's just dive into Visual Studio and see what this is all about. Now, before we dive straight into Visual Studio, let's first have a look at the Microsoft Partner Center, because that is the portal where you're going to submit your apps that are going into the Microsoft App Store. Now, this has existed for a long, long time. I created my account back when Windows Phone was a thing. Do you still remember that one? So I don't remember all the details, or I don't know how the process has changed. I think there's a small fee once, just like the Android App Store, the Google Play Store, and then you can create your account. You have to enter some details, and I'm sure you can figure that out, but once you do, you will end up in the Microsoft Partner Center. And here we can go to apps and games, and that is where you create all kinds of entries for the different apps or games that you are going to release. So here it comes up, and I already created one, the MAUI Signing Sample app. But whenever you want to create a new one, there's this button, New Product. You have to choose between app and game. And then you have to create this name that's going to be reserved just for you. So it's going to be unique. You can check the availability. I'm sure you can figure that out. But once you do, you will have this entry that you can go into. And we need to go in here because there is some details that you need to match with the package that you're going to create, your MSIX package that you're going to create from Visual Studio that you have to upload here. And the details for this app have to match whatever is in your Visual Studio project. Now, what I'm about to show you is all in the command line, because I love to explain to you what goes on under the hood, and also because at the time of recording it's still in preview, so the UI isn't implemented yet in Visual Studio. There will be a UI further down the road, just like there was for iOS and Android and also for UWP, but it's not there quite yet. So I'm going to show you how to do everything with the command line. But once there is actually a UI, then you should also be able to link like this Microsoft App Store stuff with Visual Studio automatically, and it will sync all the things automatically for you. But now at least you'll know where all these details are coming from. So here on the left, let's go to Product Identity, and that will take a little bit to load here, and you can see all these fields populate, and it's basically these top three here. So the identity name, identity publisher, and the publisher display name. Now this is the name that I gave my publisher account, so this is like the company name I have for myself. This is the unique ID that's associated with your publisher account. And here's kind of like the name. So this is the name that I gave my app, right? And this is the publisher name, so without the spaces and whatnot. So this is kind of like the bundle identifier for iOS, the com.yourcompany.app basically, but now for your Microsoft apps. So these are the things you need. Now let's switch over to Visual Studio, and I'm going to switch back and forth a little bit while I copy all these values so you can see where goes what. But let's go to Visual Studio right now. And before I'm going to show you all of that, let's look at the CS proj file. So this is the source of the project file for a .NET MAUI app. And if you've been watching the other videos, which I totally recommend you do, about Android and iOS, you can see the details for that are here. So only when we're building for for Android, we have this key store file, and we need to add all these details here. For iOS, same thing. We don't need to actually change anything here for your Windows app. You could if you want to. I'll talk about that in a little bit. You can change like the command line parameters and put them in here as properties for the things that you don't want to type over and over again, or you can change these things and use them as command line arguments as well. You can swap between those, so that's really cool. But the thing I do want to point out here is that we have these target frameworks. So this is part of the single project for a .NET MAUI app. So we have Android, iOS, Mac Catalyst, but you can see for the Windows one, there is this condition going on here. One of which is that we have to run on Windows. Well, that, is a certainty. We have to run on Windows for this to work. But the other one is to use the MS-build runtime type full. So for this, we need MS-build. MS-build is the compiler, the tool to compile all the things for .NET. But now that we're in this cross-platform world and using .NET Core, we have .NET Build, right? But MS Build is kind of like the predecessor to that, and it's still used for a lot of things. And for some reason, for these Windows apps for .NET MAUI, we need to use MS Build. So the commands are going to look a little bit different than the commands for the other apps for Android and iOS, but it will all work just the same. I don't really know what the restriction is for this, but we still need to use MS Build. Maybe that's going to change over time. Whenever you're watching this video, you can also use .NET Build, but as long as this condition is here, we're probably stuck to MS Build. So that's what you want to do here. Now, the other things that we do need to change is here under our Solution Explorer in the project, and we go to Platforms, Windows, and then our Package.appxmanifest. Now, again, this is all in preview, so this has a graphical UI editor, but it's not available right now. And again, I just like to show you what's going on under the hood. So I'm just going to show this as the XML source. It's just another XML file. So let's right-click, Open With, and select the XML text editor. And here you can see all the bits that are inside of it. Now, this is a lot of metadata for your app. All the icons are here, all the stuff, which you basically don't need to touch unless you want to do something specific with that. But all the details that we just saw in the portal are right over here. So we have this identity and these properties. That is basically where you go with all your stuff. Now, this name is a GUID right here, which is kind of misleading because this is actually supposed to be this name right here. So my publisher name and the app name. So let's get that in here. This publisher, you can see the CN here. And if you look closely, that is also what this identity, this ID right here has. So let's just copy that one to the publisher right here. This version, you need to update that whenever you are going to supply a new version. So you need to bump that version number, make sure that you do that. But for now, 1.0.0 is perfectly fine. The display name is the display name of our app, which is going to be this part of the name right here, and the publisher display name needs to match as well so that it's matched to your account properly. So let's put that in there as well. And whenever we've done that, we're basically done with updating our package app manifest because all the details are in here now. And you basically need to do this once. You need to go in here whenever you need to bump the version and that kind of stuff. But other than that, you're done. And we can basically start building our MSIX package that we can provide to the store. Now, while we're here, this is all, I maybe should have started with that. This is all to provide your app to the store, right? But what you can also do is provide a self-signed certificate if you want to just take that MSIX installer, give it to someone else, but it needs to be signed. There needs to be a certificate. So you can self-sign it, or you can use one that you've bought from Komodo or VeriSign or Symantec or something like that. Those are a couple of vendors that sell these certificates. They're pretty expensive, and with good reason, because they make things very secure, but you can get those as well and sign your MSIX and distribute it outside of the store. We're going to see that a little bit later in the video. You don't need to do that if you're going to provide it through the Microsoft store, because they will do the signing and their certificate for you. So you can just provide an unsigned package and they will do the signing whenever it's going to be published to the store. So we don't need to worry about that. We just need to build our app right now. Now for that, I mentioned I'm going to do that through the command line. So here I'm going to bring up the terminal that will bring up the folder that that my source is living in right here. You can also find that on my GitHub repository, so you can see what's going on here. And I'm going to copy the command right here from off screen. So don't be worried, don't be frightened with all the text that's flying in. Like I already said, we're going to use the MS build XE, so we're going to use that to build. And you want to make sure to build the CS Proj. Now I'm doing this because I'm specifying the platform x64 here, because x64, as of some version of Windows 10, some upgrade, and Windows 11, it's all x64, so that should be the majority of the platforms that you want to support. You can do it for ARM or x86 if that's what you want. You can just change it here, but this works out of the box for your CS project. If you want to do it on the solution level, you have to go through your configuration manager right here and add a configuration for those other platforms. But that's up to you if that's what you want. But for now, I'm going to stick with this. The restore will restore the NuGet packages while we're doing all this. The /t is the target. I set it to publish to kind of like mimic .NET publish, but you can also do the target build, so it will build the whole thing. It doesn't really matter, both result in a MSIX file. The target framework, so that's like the NET 6.0, Windows, yada yada, because that is the thing that we want to target here, right? This is here in our CS Proj. We want to only build the Windows bits right now, not the iOS, not the Android ones, just the ones for Windows. Our configuration release, so that's kind of like the same thing as setting it here to release in our run menu, because we don't want to have all the debug bits in our application that we're going to distribute. And then here we want to have this generate appx package on build is true, which is kind of the switch that says like, hey, you want to generate this MSIX thing, and the platform I already handled. Now, like I mentioned, you can also take this generate package on build, copy that and put that here. I think there's a specific section here for Windows already. You can put that in here as a tag, so that will be the tag name, and you can make this true, and that will allow you to do it like this, and you can remove the kind of like argument right here. So that's totally up to you how do you want to arrange this, but for now I'm going to leave this out of here and I'm going to do it here. So I press enter and it's going to run. Actually, it doesn't take very long. So it's going to build our application. You can see the output flying by. You can already see some mention of the MSIX file going on here, and that is the one that we can just provide to the store. So boom, it's done. It's successfully. I can do Explorer dot. So Explorer is the file explorer for Windows, and the dot is the current folder. So it's going to open the file explorer, the UI in the current folder. And if I go through all the subfolders here, so bin, x64, release, Windows, and then this is like all your build artifacts. So this is all the DLLs, the XEs, all the things that are here separately. And in the app packages, we have the actual package that we want to supply. So this is the MSIX right here. And you can see whenever you double click this, it will stay install, but you can't because it's not signed with the trusted certificate. So that's the part that we're going to handle in the next part of the video. But that's not needed for the App Store, right? So we can just close this one, and we can go back to the portal right here and then go back to the application overview. And how this works is with submissions. So basically every version is a submission. So I can start my submission, and you have to provide all this metadata about in which countries it's going to be available, what's going to be the price, age ratings. You can see all the things here. I trust that you can figure out what is needed to provide here. I'm just going to focus on the packages, and I'm going to provide this package right here. Now, if you have multiple packages for multiple platforms like x64, x86, you can drop multiple in here, and you can extend your range of platforms that you can support, but usually the x64 at this point in time should be pretty common. So let's just put that in here, and I'm going to drag it in. It's going to upload our package first, and then it's going to kind of validate, like, have we got all the right icons in there? Did the metadata that we just supply, is that matching between our account and the MSIX? So it's going to do a couple of validations, and whenever something is wrong, it will tell us here, and we can basically fix that and re-upload a new version. So the validation is complete. It went through successfully. We can see one warning right here. The acceptance validation warning. The following restricted capabilities require approval before you can use them in your app. Run full trust, because this allows full access to your machine. This is something that is just needed for the app that we're building here. I'm not really sure. I think I saw online a couple of people that mentioned that they got some couple of follow-up questions from Microsoft, like, hey, why do you want to do this? Why do you need this? But other than that, we kind of can ignore this warning, and you should be able to just get your app through the store. Now here you can see all the platforms that you want to support, so you can click the checks right here. Xbox, Windows 10 Mobile, it can run on all these things if you do the x64 version. So, you know, this is now fine. We can save this, and then our package is done, and you can provide all the rest of the metadata here, submit it for review, and it should run all fine. It should be available in the Microsoft Store. So that's really cool. But we also have the other scenario where you want to take that MSIX and maybe supply it to someone outside of the App Store, known as sideloading. So we should check out how to do that. And we actually don't need this portal for that at all. We can just do that from Visual Studio. So let's hop back into Visual Studio and see how we can do that. Here we are back in Visual Studio, and basically the first thing we need to do is create this self-signed certificate. So we're going to create this certificate that you need to supply together with your MSIX. And then whenever you do, people need to first install that certificate in a certain store, and then they can run the MSIX, install it, and do all the things. If you have a certificate from the vendors that I just mentioned, Komodo or Semantic or, I don't know, VeriSign, there's a lot of vendors I think out there, then those certificates are already trusted within Windows, and you can buy that certificate, use that to sign your package. The steps will be absolutely the same. You just have to find the right thumbprint and that kind of stuff. But it will be absolutely the same, and you don't need to provide the certificate for your MSIX bundle. You can just send the MSIX and it will run out of the box, basically. So that's kind of the options that you have here. I'm going to stay here in the console, and again, I'm going to copy a couple of commands. They should be available also on the GitHub repository. I will put them there so you don't have to type this all from the screen. And this is a couple of PowerShell commands. So here you can see create new self-signed certificate. A type is custom, and the subject here, we see that CN thing again. CN is Gerald, and that has to match our manifest again. So we need to go back to our manifest right here and to make sure that this publisher, so the CN is, matches the thing that we are going to specify here in our subject. That is the very important thing here. If that doesn't match, this is not going to work. The key usage is going to be a digital signature. You can just basically copy most of this. The friendly name, you can make that whatever you want. So this is just something so that you can find it back in the certificate store if it's needed. So I made it my .NET MAUI certificate. The location, which is the location in the certificate store, doesn't really matter where it's going to save it, but it's going to save it in the current user and then my own personal store. If you know a little bit about the certificates, there's different stores and different locations where you can store certificates or you can read them from. And this text extension has to do with like how it's going to be encrypted and that kind of stuff. So you can just take that value. If we press enter, then it's going to do this this actual thing. It saved it in the security store, current user.my. And the important thing here is this thumbprint and the subject, of course. But we can see that this matches this thing right here. So let me actually save this manifest so that this doesn't go wrong. The other stuff doesn't really matter. Of course, the version still matters if you want to upgrade the package, but the other stuff doesn't matter for this certificate. The thumbprint is something that you want to note because we need to use that later on. What we want to do now is also get that certificate out. So it's in our store right now, but we want to have a file that we can use to actually sign our MSIX file. So let me copy in another command right here. And we are setting, this is the way in PowerShell to set a variable. So the password is going to be a string, my secret password, but we are going to convert that to a secure string. And then that password is going to be used right here to set the password for a PFIX file, which is going to be saved as certificate.pfix in the folder that I'm in. So this is the folder where my source is living as well. Typically, you probably don't want to do that. You don't want to commit all of this to a public repository or whatever. You just want to have this somewhere safe. But for now, I'm going to show you this this way. And here, we're going to say export PFIX certificate, and which one is that? We say that with -cert. We have to specify the store where I just saved it. So that's kind of like what we see here, right? Certificate, my current user, and then the thumbprint. So here we need this one. Let me copy that, and I need to bring the cursor here, which is always kind of a hassle in command line world, right? But it's not too long of a command, so that's good. And let's paste that in here. And now whenever we do, it saved our certificate.pfx. So that is good. We need that one. And we also need the password that we just specified, right? So don't lose that as well. Now, what we can now do is basically get back with our command that we've just seen, but we're going to add a couple of parameters right here. So let me, whoops, this is again the thumbprint. We didn't need that. I copied the wrong thing here. We needed it a little bit though, so copy off screen here and paste it in. So this is exactly the same command up till here, but now you can see a couple of extra things. We can say appx package signing enabled. Now again, you can take this in your CS project if that's what you want. I'm supplying it here as a parameter for our command. We also need to specify then the package certificate thumbprint. So that's the thumbprint that we just saw. So let me go over there actually and put that in there. So that's done. And then the next thing that you can see is the package certificate password. So that's the password that we just provided as well. That will allow us to open up the PFX file and actually enable it to sign our MSIX. So let me copy this thumbprint right here. I can paste that in there. And what was my password? Something with my secret password or something. Let me double check that. Get this out of the way, the password. And what did I make it? My secret password. Okay, let's go. My secret password. And whenever I do this, it's going to create again the MSIX. So maybe it takes a little bit longer because it needs to do the signing as well. But it will create the same MSIX file, but now it's digitally signed with this certificate. Of course, if you have an existing certificate, you can skip the create certificate steps and you can just get the thumbprint and the password. You should have them and use that to sign the thing as well. So now it's done and we can do Explorer dot again to get into our folder right here. And you can see my PFX file is created right here in the root, so that's there. And then we can go to our build artifacts again. So bin, x64, release, Windows, app packages. But this time we will see that there's also a .ser file. So this is the certificate that you're going to have to supply to the user as well if they want to run this MSIX. Because if I double click this, you're again going to see untrusted app. You can't do anything with this unless it actually gives the instructions here. So this is not contact your system administrator, the app developer to obtain a new certificate, and it must be in the root certificates. So let's see how to do that, just to make this a complete story so that you know how to instruct your users to do this. So if you open up, you double click this .ser file, it's going to show you the details. So this is valid for a year, which is all fine. The details will have our little friendly name in here. Well, it should have at least. And it will have our thumbprint, so you can see that as well. So this has all the thing, and the subject here is Gerald C, so you see that here as well. But what you want to do here is in general, and you want to say install certificate. I think you need to do the local machine. I'm not 100% sure. I think you need to make this local machine. Click next. It's going to pop this little thing that we need administrative rights here. And you don't want to automatically select the certificate store. You want to do place all certificates in the following store, then browse and then select trusted root certification authorities, because that is typically the store where the pre-trusted certificates are, right? So from all the vendors that I just mentioned, the certificates are already there. Those are the trusted ones. Those are verified. Those are not hacked, etc., etc. So those are in here, but we need to add this self-signed one if we want to distribute this MSIX to other people. So let's do next, let's do finish, import was successful, and that should be it. So if we go back to the MSIX file now, you can see the warning went away, and we can now install this application, and actually it's going to launch when it's ready. So this is going to see if there's actually prerequisites that need to be installed. And it's not, so it's going to run the application. And here we have our .NET MAUI Windows application, which is now installed on the client machine. So that is how you do the side loading for your .NET MAUI Windows app. So that was a lot to take in, right? So now you know how to create an MSIX file to distribute your .NET MAUI Windows app to the Microsoft Store, and also how to sideload it to other computers. Now, there's also ways to have it kind of like as a single executable. I think that is an option as well, or just, you know, distribute like a whole set of DLLs and XEs. That is definitely a possibility as well. But the MSIX provides for a really nice experience and installer for the user. So I think that is a really great option. And the main main goal for this video was to show you how to distribute it through the App Store. So if you have any more questions, as always, please let me know down in the comments, of course. But yeah, now you know how to do this. I still have to do a quick shout out to a big number of people, because a lot of people has joined as members on my channel. If you want to know what that's all about, please check out the join button down there below with the subscribe button. And if you're new here on this channel, please subscribe to my channel as well. So here we go. Paul Kizilos, thank you. Ruth Madubuke, thank you so much. Pascal Mühlberger, that sounds more German to me, maybe. Minush Jindal. And who do we have more? Patrick D. Baldwin D. Jerry. What do we have? We have a big list. Oh, that were all of them actually. So thank you so much. The new members, also the existing members, and of course all the watchers of my videos, all alike. I appreciate what you're doing here to support me a little bit more. Of course, as always, please like this video, click that subscribe button, and if you want to know more about also Mac OS applications, then you want to check out this video right here. Maybe you still have to build your .NET MAUI application, check out this playlist right here, and if you want to subscribe to my channel, there's a handy button to do that right here. See you next time.